Hey, beautiful.
All right. Hey, gorgeous.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Are
cool.
you
How
okay?
are you?
I
Yeah.
have AC on, so I don't know if I should turn that off. Is it
No,
so
you're totally perfect. I can't hear it at all.
hot?
And also probably the computer or the phone might overheat.
Okay. Everything wants to overheat right now.
I
Well,
feel that.
thank you. This is Kristen. Thanks for joining me.
Of course. Thanks for having me, beautiful.
So I'm just gonna pick your brain a little bit. That's what I do with
I
people.
love it.
I feel like if I want to learn stuff and it's interesting to me, it probably is very interesting and powerful for so many others. So why not share it publicly, right?
Yeah, I love that.
So okay, so your brand name is Unstoppable Goddess.
Correct.
Yes. So first of all, what does that even mean? Like, I think when people hear like terms goddess or divine goddess or divinity or divine feminine, like what does that mean?
Yeah, my interpretation and kind of definition of the word goddess is just kind of a woman who understands she's more than just human, right? Just like men are also have divinity and are bigger than just human is. I think that that's what it represents to me. So it's not like I'm some deity or something that isn't, like everyone else, but it's just honoring that, yeah, I am human and I also have something a little bit more beyond, right? That every human has that. We have that potential, that we have that spirituality. There's something sacred about us. That's what it is to me.
I love that you also touched on this on the fact that it's not just a female thing. It's not just women that tap into this. Like it's everybody. So it's just
Yeah, it's a human thing. It is a human
women
thing
thing.
for
Yeah,
sure.
there you go. So I feel like the terms feminine and like masculine versus feminine and what that means in that energetic field and all that can be misconstrued. So it just means I think it means tapping into your creative side and your things that inspire you and what drives you, your passions, right?
I
So at
love that.
the end of the day, that's pretty much what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to quote you. So living your truth and connecting to your real self. So I feel like maybe a lot of people don't know that they aren't living in their true real self or authentic self. And how do you think that? I think what happens over the course of time with just everything, your upbringing, society, what you see on TV, just everything, I think your core self can get undermined and just kind of lost and hidden. So I think it has to be like it's always there, but I think it's just getting like covered up. So is that your take on it, or how would you explain that? And how can one tap back into it?
Yeah, you are. I love these questions already. You're great.
Okay.
This is so powerful. This is fantastic. Yeah, you're wonderful. This is amazing. So, what I think about that is, yeah, we all do have innate truths, right? Just stuff that like resonates, and it's not from a place of like, this is what I was told is good, but from a place of like, no, this is really like truly authentically good for me. How I feel like you'll know that is it on all levels, it will feel really nourishing to you. Like you'll feel in alignment with yourself. When you're not living your truth, you'll do things that your inner you will just be like, oh, this doesn't feel right because you're kind of crossing your own boundaries or not living in your authenticity, and your vibration of like your true essence that never leaves will not be resonant with your choices, and you will feel that discord within you. I do think it's a place of self-discovery. Like, yeah, we don't just most people aren't just like, I know my truth, and it's not really like that. I find that truth comes through discovery. So a lot of my stuff was playing with I tried polyamory, just to see like, is that something for me? And then I could really be like, yeah, it's authentically not. And it's not from a place of just ideal like theory and like judgment, but from a place of me trying it on and being like, God, that really doesn't fit me. Okay, I'm really monogamous. Awesome. I'm not monogamous because that's what society is telling me to be. I'm monogamous because that's truly what fills my heart. And just like people the opposite, right, that are poly, like I find for them, a lot of them, it really does just feel their soul nature. It is their truth. So I think when you start doing that and living that way, you just feel in harmony with your own heart in life and also with life. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be challenging, maybe on a societal, or particularly if you have friends or family that don't appreciate your truth, there can be discord. So it's not like all of a sudden all your life's going to be in harmony and just like everything's magical now that you live your truth, but you will really feel self-respected. Like you will feel like, at least I know I'm honoring my own self and really living and listening to myself. So I think it's also a big factor in fulfillment. So I think you feel really fulfilled when you're doing stuff and living from your truth, compared to when you're living, things that like you think you're supposed to do and you're like, I have everything and I'm super unhappy. Like, what is happening? To me, that's a lot because you're not really living your truth or your values or going deep into your own self and realizing what would a life of fulfillment actually look like to me, because it may not just be a fancy house and cars and a good job.
Wow, this conversation can go on into so many different tangents right now. Oh, okay. Um, First of all, I think it's hard for people to understand. Well, okay, you're touching on a subject where the cliche, like, the house and the white picket fence and the 2.5 average children and the dog and like the fancy car and the good job, but like you're still not feeling fulfilled. I think it's hard for people to understand what are their choices versus what has been put upon them. So anyway, my point is how do you kind of discover what is really your own truth and not what's been instilled in you since your childhood, and it's how you resonate, how you feel. What's your emotion behind it? If you're like, yeah, I'm supposed to go to college, but that's what I've been told I need to do. I need to get that diploma. I need to get that certain job, but like you're just not inspired by it. Question that. Question that, right?
Yeah, and I think question that from different spaces. Question that, is it just because I have the perception it's so hard that I can't do it? Is the perception that like I can't do college, and question that stuff. Become really curious. Like I think, in Tantra particularly, like, it's all about curiosity. Like there is no right or wrong, like saying no that you don't want to make love that day. No, I don't want to have the white picket fence. That's just beautiful. Like be curious about that. Cool, interesting. You are like, you're saying no. Why do you think that is? And then feel it in yourself. Is it because I want to say fuck society? Or is it because I'm truly like stepping in my value of being like, that path isn't for me. Right. Because we can also kind of have like the rebel or different things that can show up to make us feel special, but like in the end, it will also not be so much. So I think it's really about like getting to know yourself, which is an ever unfolding thing. So in my Tantra world, that's why I always begin with intimacy with self. If I'm not intimate with myself, it's going to be really challenging for me to be intimate with another person truly. Like, yeah, I may be naked and, allow men to enter me, but that isn't really truly actually anything besides physically intimate, but emotionally and spiritually and stuff, you can be completely closed down and have that be a very vamped, disconnected experience. So I think it's really giving yourself time to explore different things, like, and try different ways. Like that's what I think a lot of it is like exploring like what does fit with me, what does work with me. Also getting to like see like, is this a belief that somebody gave me that society instilled in me, or is this a belief that I really truly believe myself? That like when I look at this belief, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like I'm with that, and I think that that's a big part of it, is like, and also realizing that you're going to shift, right? That's also a really exciting thing, is that we also shift. So in part of your life, like particularly, monogamy may have felt like, dude, this is it. And then maybe after you've had kids and you and your husband divorced, like maybe you're in a phase where all of a sudden your truth is like, I really want to be open. And then 3 years later, you're like, I really want to close again and have monogamy. And, so I think also really, and this is, in Tantra, we talk about becoming like your own lover. So, and in these ways, it's like, yeah, we would always be like curious, like what's open up for your lover and where are they at now and what's their new path and what, is calling them and stuff. And I think having that with yourself, like, what am I interested in now? What do I feel like my soul's calling me to now? Like, where do I feel the tingles when I look at stuff? I'm just like, that excites me. Like, and that may change, and something that was so truthful for you in your reality may completely be like, oh yeah, I shifted and like I value that time in my life, but like, whoa, I'm way over here, really different, and that's so fulfilling too. I'm not wrong for who I was, but I'm just in a different place. So I think, experiencing yourself like a lover, like, oh, what is here and happening, and realizing that you're not just going to be one thing and like concrete.
I love that. I'm kind of laughing because I was just going to say I got goosebumps when you said that, and then you just mentioned the word tingles. I'm like, I just like that's how I know something resonates. I'm like, okay, goosebumps. Like that's
I love
powerful.
that.
Yeah, becoming your own lover, because anybody that follows me on Facebook or Instagram, like, I'm all about divine feminine all the time, and like, or finding your divine masculine. But it's sure, it could be someone on the outside, but it has to happen within yourself first. You're finding your own mate first, and then it manifests outwardly, you know? And not just even romantically. It could be like anything that's a passion project for you, or career driven, or just a great friendship. It doesn't have to be a romantic partner either. So I think you hit the nail on the head. And then you brought up Tantra. Okay, explain that, please. So what is meant by Tantra?
So in my opinion, Tantra is a path that's closely linked to Buddhism and Hinduism. And there actually is like a section of Buddhism that is like part of a tantric link. And so it's a really old practice. And the reason why I really like it is because Tantra embraces everything. So our sexuality as well. So in the Western culture, when it was brought over, we really just put the spotlight only on sexuality with Tantra. But it's really to see
Yeah.
all of your life as a spiritual practice. So how can I see being in traffic as a spiritual practice? How can I see raising my kids as a spiritual practice? How can I see my marriage, my, roommates, my coworkers, whoever, right? Like all these different relationships, things like, how can I see all of these and see them as a spiritual path? So for me, that really resonated just because I, did realize I wasn't gonna go sit and live a very, in Buddhism, you remove a lot, right? Like you remove a lot of different things. And in the Hindu path, I just feel like there's certain things they just don't talk in depth about, and sexuality and sensuality are one of them. So Tantra does talk about it. In the actual lineage, it's actually kind of a secret, like it's not really known. Like in India, they don't really embrace it, like it's definitely kind of not talked about, and things like that. So I think for me, that's what it is. So it's also like in that realm, like how can I be with my sexual energy in a spiritual manner? I think it's just the discussion of like, I always say we have puritanism or porn in our culture.
You have
What
what?
else is there? We either have puritanism or porn. Like I think particularly in America, we go between like this undercurrent of puritanism, which we don't bluntly see, but is very there, or we have porn. And it's like, well, what else is available?
Me
And we
too.
don't really talk about that as a society. And there's so much.
That's
What I find most people go through, particularly women in general, but men maybe as well, we go from like being super sexual, oh my god, out doing all stuff, like, and then we're like, whoa, wait, like I'm not really in alignment. Like, why? Who am I dating? Who is this man? Like, I don't even know. And then we swing to the other side of the pendulum. A lot of us do celibacy for at least a year, if not more. And it's not like it's some cloak of celibacy, but it's like, yeah, I'm just not into being open. So then we go the other side, and then it's like, okay, but I'm still having that inkling to have some sexual energy, right? Because it's very natural and normal and connection and sensuality. And so a lot of people don't know, how do we weave it in the middle? How do I run and be a sexual person and still be really in alignment with my values and loving myself? And what is that?
that's something you touched on a little earlier, is that, yeah, you shift, you evolve, you're ever evolving. So what may have been like your rule of thumb 2 years ago is completely not the case anymore, and that's okay too. And it might even go back to how it was 2 years ago, because what's the saying? The only constant is change. So it's okay.
Totally. It's very
And that's
true.
so exciting. That's what's so enlightening about this whole process, is it's really discovering your own self.
Yep.
Right? Okay, what else did I want to ask you? So we talked about so much. Um, oh, yoga specifically, because you're very much so into health and fitness, and I was trying to remember, like, how do we even connect? We connected online, and I'm thinking, was it through ballroom dancing or was it through spirituality? But probably it's a mixture of both. Because I think we have in both worlds. So anyway, so getting more into, like, of course, there's a reason we call it your body is your temple, because it is what's housing you here. Like, it's so important to take care of it. And specific practices like yoga, I know so many people, of course, realize that it's good physically, but there's a whole energetic side to that too. So can you touch on all that, please?
Of the energetics of yoga and what it opens? Is that kind of like what you're questioning, or?
Both.
Okay, yeah. I mean, in every lineage, there's just energy to our body. And so if we start to really flow in that and open with that and have harmony, so, you know, disease instead of ease, right? So all that different stuff. So a lot of times what you'll find is most of us are living in a very linear world. So we walk like this, we sit down, we get up, and we're not really opening up our body or even grounding into our body. We're in a very because of our society with all the computers and all that stuff, we're all really mental. So we live in a very here mind, right? Like most of us aren't doing manual labor anymore, or like really having to like clean the house or do things like that that really bring us into our body, gardening. So yoga, sorry.
That's a good point. Yeah. I hadn't thought of
So
that
yeah,
that
we're
way.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we're in a really time frame of society up here. And so that's, you know, tantra and yoga, because they're very directly linked. They are not the same thing, but they're very directly linked. So coming into the body is really when we can start to awaken. You know, they say the body is the subconscious mind manifest. So
Oh.
any kind of trauma you have or anything like that, that will show up as an energetic knot in your body. So the way that you're gonna let that go is you can't just mentally be like, oh yeah, I let go of that trauma. Bye. I wrote it down. It's over. Like you actually literally have to like let that energy out of your body and it will process through that way. So, you know, in a lot of tantra, we have to do a lot of shaking, and that's what animals do to release trauma. So if you ever notice yourself in fight, flight, or freeze, particularly freeze, like my encouragement to you would be to get up and do gentle shaking on your body, because that's actually going to move it through and not hold it into your body. So when you do things like yoga, and I do want to say it's really important that you do a yoga that's good for your body. A yoga was originally done to tire you out, to get ready for meditation, as well as it was never done in a group setting. It was always done with you and a guru who did a specific set for your body. So as a Pilates instructor and things like that, I have seen people actually also injure themselves from how we're doing yoga in the West, because we're just making everybody do the same exact asana series. And sometimes people are pushing in ways their body shouldn't. So I do just want to say it's really good to be really curious and intentional with your alignment and making sure you're doing stuff that's good for your body with yoga. Yeah, and then with that type of stuff, you know, even if you do head rolls, like you notice energy in your neck coming out. So we have all this energy, and when we experience things, we hold it in our body. And so yoga is just a way to bring it in, that we bring meditation. It's a meditative movement, right? And most vinyasa means breath with movement. So you have the breath that's linked directly to every movement, the inhale and the exhale. And what that does is it moves your body into a place of meditational movement. And it will really help you just gently open up your body more. So if you try to stretch, but you're not breathing and you're literally like holding, it actually won't do that much, because your muscles are actually still in fear. Your muscles, when you first stretch, will actually kind of go like this because they're not sure if it's safe or not. So you breathing into it and relaxing will open that stuff up for after 30 seconds. So, you know, doing that will really open up your body, open up your mind, open up your spirit. Like I said, make sure you really are doing it in alignment and intention with your particular body. But that kind of stuff will start to move through you. Also, energy. So, yoga has the Kundalini that sits at the base of the spine and it comes up like a double head serpent. So when we start to do yoga and things like that, our life force starts to build, right? Because we're breathing up, we're breathing through, like we're really coming into that instead of like our normal kind of shallow breathing, like I said, linear movement. So that stuff will really start to make you alive, and your energy and your field alive, and move stuff through you. It can even bring stuff to the surface. So I know a lot of times when people do hip openers, they cry a lot. Hips are where we leave a lot of stuff. So that's, you know, the important thing for me about yoga is that it's in the asana series is only 1/8 of a yoga path. There are 7 more things that include like nonviolence even with your own thoughts about yourself. So like, you know, just noticing, do I violently talk to myself? And I know we may not use that term, but then if you looked at the stuff you said to yourself, you're like, that's kind of violent. Like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
okay. So, you know, I think all that stuff, we also have this sheath that's called fascia that's in between your skin and your muscles, and it lies across our whole entire body, and it can get pulled and tight in different ways. So doing things like yoga can help it stretch and kind of find its own way back. So I think it's really important that we do all those things.
Yeah, I love that you touched on the fact that I guess probably a lot of people realize this on the surface. I mean, when I was going through severe back pain, I mean, I had back problems for years. It was a very stressful time in my life. And so I knew on some level it was connected, of course. But now I know so much more. And by the way, knock on wood, like like I never have back problems at all anymore. like at all. Like, and I just like
Beautiful.
see the dichotomy of then versus now, just because I'm in such a much happier and more peaceful, calm place. But I remember, like, you know how you have your Facebook memories. So like from years ago, I had like cupping done, and I went through everything, chiropractic and
Wow.
massage therapy and pain medication, like everything, you know. But I remember posting something that said, you know, the only way through your pain, or the only way to get past your pain is through it. It's really kind of a thing. But it doesn't have to be an overwhelming thing. I think it's just a matter of like recognizing it, observing it. But it's literally a block. And I use that term a lot. Literally, it's literally a block in your system. And it has to manifest somehow. It's going to manifest physically somehow on the outside. So I think when we're treating things from the outside, we're missing the point, because really it's an inside job. It's something probably energetic and emotional, right? But using physicality as an aid helps as well. And I want to say that it doesn't have to be just yoga. Like I used to always say that jogging was my meditation. Like I used to jog with my dog all the time, because like I had a companion, but I wasn't like having to be mental and like have a conversation, and just being out in nature and doing something repetitive. Like, so it doesn't have to be specifically like spiritual yoga.
Yeah, totally.
Dancing is so cathartic. Oh my God. How about releasing emotions with that? Playing different characters, getting in touch with your own self. Yeah.
And just having some fun, you know, like with other people in a platonic way, and, you know, touching each other in our world, where, because that more puritanism, and at least in my opinion, we have that like real strict line of like, I'm not romantic with you, no, we can't touch, you know, besides like maybe a hug to greet each other. And for me, like what I like about partner dance is that we get to find a new place. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I get to touch and play with you, and we're still super platonic and in our respective bubbles, but we're still having fun, right? Like, and it just allowed me a lot of like emerging with other human beings in a really healthy, beautiful way.
I'm so glad that you touched on that as well, because for years I've been talking about the benefits of ballroom dancing, or dancing in general, but ballroom dancing specifically. I mean, how many levels of happiness are there? Because you got fun music, you're social, you're talking, you're being physical, so that's releasing endorphins, you're using your mind, you're having to memorize. But the one thing that I just kind of like really fully like intellectually realized recently is that the human touch, like there are so many people that they're single, they live by themselves, you know, they just literally don't have human touch, and we need that as creatures. We need that. So it's like a very safe, acceptable environment where you get to do that. So I don't mean that to sound weird at all.
It doesn't. Like, I get what you're saying. Like I said, it's platonic, like, because it is really clean lines for the most part. I haven't had, you know, I think I only had like one in my whole entire thing that was like a little bit edgy, but he was still like just kind of weird, but I wasn't like, what are you doing? But yeah, there's like those tone of like respect, right? Like, I respect you. I know that there's a certain way to interact with you that, like, you know. And so for me, it's been a really beautiful experience. It's really a heart opener, because I came from a modern ballet background. So used to being by myself and everything. And so the invitation for me of like, how can I let this person in and lead me, but you don't become a noodle, and still hold, like, that really transferred, like, how do you have relationships?
That is a whole topic for a whole nother video. Just the balance and the lead and the follow, and being able to receive and being able to give. Like, that's a whole thing right there. Okay, but we have to do this on another day. I know you have to go. I keep looking down because I'm checking the time. So I know you got to go. So is there anything else? Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that I was going to ask you. So just to let people know, please, a little bit more about like what you do. Do you do coaching, or like how can they get a hold of you?
And yeah, my company is called Unstoppable Goddess, because I think for me, that represents the merging of the masculine and the feminine, because we are in a wave to where like I got to go out and create my dreams, and I also want to be super feminine and enjoy my life. So that's what it means to me. You can find me, I'm on all platforms under that. I have a website. I do coaching and retreats, and I do workshops, and I do all sorts of stuff. To me, they all interlink, whether it's like any kind of dancing and self-love and tantra, like they're all interlinked, like even partner dance with tantra. And yeah, so I'm just really open, really curious. I really create space for people to explore their sensuality, sexuality in a safe container that maybe has never been there before, because we just don't really have those containers in the world too much. So it's really just a place to explore your truth and to see like what, and so that's a lot of what I do. And I do one-on-ones, and yeah, so it's really beautiful. And I'm a fun, artistic, deep one. So I like to be really fun and playful, and I also really love deep soul. So
Me too. Agreed.
I can
Okay.
tell, girl, you and I definitely resonate. Like I love all your
Yeah.
ballroom stuff we spoke about before, about how
Oh,
like ballroom dancers are so rare. So it's so cool because I
thank
just
you.
love how you're like spirituality and like ballroom dance.
Yeah, those are my two things now these days. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I love it.
And then, so in your website is Unstoppable Goddess
Yeah, it's unstoppablegoddess.com. Yep.
and Acro Yoga Bliss.
Acro Yoga Bliss. Yep. That's like more my couple retreats that have acro
Okay.
yoga, adventure, and then they have tantra. So we merge those three together. So you just come and have a super blissful experience.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining me. I
Oh
really
my God.
appreciate
Thank you so much for having me. You are so stunning and beautiful and just like, yeah, really
it.
deep and lovely. So thank you.
We'll have to do this again.
Of course. All right, love.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.